Hi, I'm Peter, and today I'm going to be making a savory traditional Greek dish called Spanakopita. Now, in America, it's typically known as spinach pie, but in my family, we call it pita. Now, the first step in assembling this dish is creating the spinach and feta filling. What I've done beforehand is dry the spinach overnight. You should wash it straight from the package, and what I've done is let it sit overnight. And then I chopped it. You don't want it too large. You don't want the leaves to be large at all. Definitely bite-sized. You don't want to be chomping into a huge spinach leaf. What you also want to do is pick off the stems. This is a no-no. Break that off. What we do to start assembling the filling is we put in an onion. And what you do when you mix, you just get right in there with your hands. The best tools that a chef can have are 2 clean hands. Now I'm adding crumbled feta cheese. In Greek, we call grandmother yaya. So my yaya made spanakopita or pita all her life, and she actually made her phyllo dough from scratch, which is something that unfortunately was not passed down. But my mom's perfected her recipe over the years, and this is what we have today. Now I'm just going to beat up the eggs and add those to the mixture. Okay, let's mix this before we put the eggs in. It can get a little messy, so be careful. I like to use a large aluminum pan, but what I found works also is a large roasting pan. Okay, and you just pour that right over the spinach, feta, and onions. Dig right in. There's really no rhyme or reason to doing this. You just have to go right in, and I kind of like to pull things from the front, then pull it to the back, and just grab it with some large handfuls, just to get everything very well distributed. Well, I think this is fairly well mixed and distributed. The next step for us now is to assemble the spanakopita. What I have here is a traditional Greek pan. It's called a tapsi. It's a large round stainless steel pan that you can get at a Greek specialty store. You could certainly find it online. If you don't have that, as I'm sure most people don't, you could certainly use a 9x13 pan. For this amount of spinach, you could probably use 2 9x13 pans. You could even use an aluminum pan like this as well. What I'm going to do to start is I've melted 2 sticks of butter, and what I'm going to do is add about, I'd say, a tablespoon of olive oil. And what we're going to do is grease the pan with that, first of all, because you don't want the phyllo to stick. You want it to pop out easily after it's all finished. So we'll grease this. Now we're ready for the first bottom layer of phyllo dough. Phyllo dough is very delicate, so it's important to be careful that you don't break it. It's taken me a lot of practice, but I think I've finally gotten down. I spoke too soon. You do want to make sure that your phyllo dough is room temperature. You should store it in your freezer until you're about to use it, and then maybe about the day before, put it in the refrigerator, and then maybe about an hour or so before you're going to use it, take it out of the fridge so it can warm up to room temperature. And then what you're going to do is you're going to butter each layer of phyllo dough. So for the bottom, you want about 8 to 10 layers, depending on how thick you want the pita to be. We're almost ready to put our spinach layer in. I'm just going to put 1 more layer of phyllo. And I usually like to put about 8 to 10 on the bottom. Again, depending on how thick you would like your pita to be. So I'm just going to get right in there with my hands again. And you probably want to put about half of the mixture in at this point, because we'll have another layer of spinach coming up. And make sure it's spread out evenly. Now that we have our spinach layer in there, we can add another about 4 to 6 layers of phyllo dough, buttering each layer as we go. On the phyllo layer before you put the spinach mixture, you can brush it with the butter and oil mixture, but you don't have to. It's an either or. I'm personally choosing not to in this instance because the mixture is definitely moist enough. So again, we're just going to layer the second layer evenly. And then once you've spread the spinach, you're ready for the final and top layer, which is about 8 to 10 pieces of phyllo dough. Again, buttering each layer. It's finally time for the last layer of phyllo dough. You want to make sure that you've preheated your oven to 350 degrees, and you will cook the pita for about 60 minutes. Or until the top layer of phyllo dough is a nice light, crispy, golden brown. You don't want to overcook it. Make sure that you do cover the top layer with plenty of the melted butter and oil because that will give you the nice golden color. So the spanakopita has cooked for about 60 minutes. As you can see, the top layer is a nice, light, crispy, golden brown. Now, you can serve this hot, cold, room temperature. Personally, I like it room temperature, sometimes cold if I'm in the mood. I don't usually prefer it hot. I'm not really quite sure why. My family always digs in the second my mom finishes cooking it, and they like it warm. There's really nothing neat and easy about this. As you can see, the phyllo is going all over the place. I'm just going to cut off a nice end. Scoop that right out there. Okay, there we go. Oh, it smells so delicious. Oh, so good. Spanakopita, the Greek way.